Welcome to Divine Decode, where energy, intuition, and self-discovery converge. I'm Yusuf, and today we are joined by Scarlett Seebach, a Reiki Master, crystal healing specialist, human design reader, and the creator of Astral Reiki. Scarlett's work goes beyond traditional healing, using precision-based energy techniques to clear interference, restore balance, and support physical and energetic well-being. Tonight, we explore the subtle yet powerful ways energy and consciousness shape our lives. Welcome to the show, Scarlett.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
It is an absolute pleasure to have you. Scarlett, for the viewers who might be not aware of what is a Reiki, can you tell them about it?
So Reiki is basically a energy healing technique. So we harness life force energy through our bodies and out of our hands to basically give people more energy. It's like the really easy way to think about it is most people are very light and energy depleted. So, we work a lot with the chakras and that kind of thing to, help release any stuck energy and fill that with more energy that's a little bit easier to sit with, better for your well-being, that kind of thing. So in a real basic sense, it's kind of just energy transfer.
Okay. And I would ask, what is the significance of Reiki in modern days time? What is its importance?
Well, a lot of people are working entirely too much, and we are seeing entirely too much, and we are interacting with entirely too many people. We in general are meant to live in a village of about 150 people and only ever talk to them. And that's not how we live anymore. We definitely don't work 4 hours a day. We definitely don't only see 150 people in our lifetimes. We are transferring so much more energy back and forth between people and expelling so much more energy than we used to have to do, which is incredibly ironic because, modern day conveniences were supposed to make life easier, not more energetically taxing. But that is not how it worked out. So Reiki is very much there to help mitigate some of the taxation, the energetic taxation that comes with modern day life. And don't get me wrong, Reiki's been around for a long time in various forms. We call it Reiki now, but something existed before Reiki. There's always been energy work. There have always been people who are out of balance in one way or another and need external assistance. But these days, it is so much more than it used to be. And we just need more help than we used to need as far as energy goes. We're all just running around here exhausted. So.
Scarlett, you created Astral Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
How is it different from other traditional Reiki practices?
So traditional Reiki practices have you channel the life force energy basically through your crown chakra and all the way down to the tips of your toes and then back up and out your hands. That is how that normally works. That's why in traditional Reiki, they really focus on keeping your body and your vessel clean, like clean eating and, exercise properly, make sure everything works the way it's supposed to in here because your energy in your body absolutely affects the energy that's coming out of your hands. So the cleaner your vessel, the easier it is to channel. That's traditional Reiki, and that's whether you're talking about in-person Reiki or distance Reiki. Astral Reiki is a little different because what I'm actually doing is I'll sit here and I basically leave my body, my consciousness or my soul, whatever it is you want to call that. It departs from this vessel and heads over to wherever my client is. And then I channel the Reiki energy through my light body or astral body, whatever you want to call it, instead of my physical body. So the energy is significantly cleaner because we don't have to take it through this whole physical vessel. We're just taking it through the light body. So it's a lot cleaner. It's a lot more intense.
You are basically taking the human body away as a Reiki form and the purer self or soul, which is very pure, and taking energy from there. If I could get it right.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm doing. Yes.
And do you see or saw any unique benefits of Astral Reiki?
I mean, as far as Astral Reiki versus traditional Reiki, I tend to find that Astral Reiki is significantly more efficient and precise than traditional Reiki tends to be. Usually with a traditional Reiki session, you need at least an hour. I find that my clients' bodies can't take a whole lot more after about 20 minutes when it comes to Astral Reiki.
Talking about crystals, they're often described as amplifiers of energy. How do you integrate them into your healing process?
So in a lot of different ways, and it depends on, whether we're in person or if I'm doing the astral portion. For me, when I'm doing Astral Reiki, I actually create a specific crystal grid that goes along with my practice to help hold the energy and make sure that I'm creating a safe space. So that's going to include rose quartz, because we all need a little bit more love in our lives, and labradorite for protection and coping with change, because my sessions tend to be quite transformative. And then blue quartz to help with communication, and fluorite for concentration, and apophyllite to help me see, quite frankly. And then amethyst for connection with higher realms, and terminalated quartz towers to help set the safe space. It's for protection.
And let's just say one of our users wanted to try this at home. Do you have any special or safe way that they can try?
Are you talking astral projection or with crystals or Reiki?
Particularly with crystals.
Sure. You can start out with basically any crystal that calls to you. Some really friendly crystals for beginners are, clear quartz or selenite. You have to be careful with selenite. Don't get it in water. It will dissolve. And so that's just something to keep an eye on. Also, amethyst is really good. So those are just like some really basic crystals that you can get started with. But the main thing that you want to remember, except for selenite, selenite always has different rules. So whatever you say about any other crystal, it probably doesn't apply to selenite. But for all the other crystals, you want to make sure that you cleanse and you charge your crystal before you actually use it. And that's really, really important, is cleansing and charging your crystal first.
That is very practical, bridging mystical tools with real world applications make energy work very accessible to everyone. Human design offers insight into how we operate energetically and psychologically. How do you combine this with Reiki and then do crystal work to guide clients?
Sure. So whenever I see a Reiki client, I really love to have their human design chart, because it kind of gives me a guidepost for what their body can handle energetically wise. So like, if my client is a projector and maybe she's a self-projected projector, then she has a lot of openness in her chart. That would mean that she has no defined motor centers. So she does not make her own energy. She very much relies on the energies around her to be able to function. So keeping that in mind, I know that this person's going to be incredibly energetically sensitive. So that means that I'm going to want to go low and slow. We do a little bit of energy very, very slowly, and then we can slowly ramp it up over time. I don't want to blast her with something really, really fast because it'll be too much for her system to handle. So that's a really good indicator for me. And then you've got the other end of that spectrum, which is a manifesting generator who's at the very least going to have a defined sacral center and a defined throat center. And very usually they also have a lot of other definition as well. So they tend to have a lot more energy and they tend to be less energetically sensitive. So I can just blast them with some energy and they're going to be fine. In fact, they're going to be looking for those tangible sensations. So I don't have to go as easy or build up as much with a manifesting generator. And then I always look for integration channels because I know that if they have integration channels, they're probably going to be able to integrate the energy much faster than they would with someone who doesn't have integration channels. So I don't have to wait as long in between sessions for that person to be able to integrate the energy. So they can easily see me once a week without issue. But someone who doesn't might need to do more like once every 2 weeks or once a month or something like that. They need to take a slower pace. Now, as far as crystals go, I don't really subscribe to the notion that like different types necessarily have like different crystals that are going to work well for them. There could be some truth to that, but not that I have seen. What I really like to focus on is definition and undefinition in their centers and sometimes even in their channels, but especially the centers. You know, we already have like a built-in mechanism for that. It's the Hindu chakra system, you know. Crystals are very loosely color-coded based on the Hindu chakra system, very loosely. You know, there's a lot of crossover and things. But in general, there's a color coding system. So, you know, if somebody has a defined sacral center, they may struggle a little bit with some stagnancy in their sacral center. So I'd want to give them something like a fire quartz to help keep things moving. But with someone who has an undefined sacral center, they actually probably have a lot of energy leaks coming out of their sacral, and they may struggle to have energy in the first place. So I'd want to give them something more like a carnelian to kind of help hold that energy in and keep them stabilized. Does that answer? Okay.
Yeah, that is so illuminating. Understanding ourselves at energetic blueprint gives very a new kind of clarity, that a new kind of choice that we can make.
Yeah.
On the flip side of it, many of the people might think of energy as abstract or maybe hoax. How do you help or reply to those skeptics?
So I tend to think that there's a difference between skepticism and being closed off. And, you know, if you think it's a hoax, then there's nothing that I can say to convince you otherwise. And that's okay. You know, if that's not the journey that you're on, it's not my place to convince you to change paths. So that's totally fine. You know, if something changes along the way and they become an actual skeptic who is thinking maybe it's a hoax or maybe it's real or maybe there's something in between, then there's a conversation to be had there. But if we're coming at it from just a hoax standpoint, there's no conversation, you know? So if we're coming at it from an actually skeptical standpoint, then my advice is to just be open and to not come in with expectations, because I find very frequently that my expectations for whatever's going to happen in any given session get completely subverted. something different always tends to happen. And so if you come into a session expecting one thing to happen and then something else happens entirely, then if you're coming at it from a skeptical lens, you may believe that it didn't work because what you expected to happen isn't what happened. So that's one of my first pieces of advice. And my second piece is to not necessarily give up on the first try. If you first see an energy healer, a worker that maybe doesn't jive with you, it's not like the right fit, they don't align, then that doesn't necessarily mean that the energy worker is a fraud. It may just be that that energy worker wasn't the right person for you. And that does not mean that you need to keep going back to them. You can go to a different one. There are lots of us. And some of us are frauds. Like, it is a thing. That is absolutely true. Frauds exist. You may have seen one. So try a different one. And, if it's still not working for you, it may just not be the thing for you. So.
That's very illuminating again, because if something is not working for you, it might not be for you. That is true. And people should understand that and accept it.
Exactly. And energy work isn't for everybody. It's not going to speak to all people.
Let's just say for someone who is ready to explore energy healing, what would be or what should be their first step when they want to begin safely and I would say effectively as well?
So if you're looking at, doing energy healing with an energy worker, then the biggest thing that you need to practice is discernment. It's very much about finding the right energy worker for you. It's a little bit like the whole skepticism thing. Not everybody's going to be a good fit. And you can find an incredibly effective energy worker whose personality you don't like, and that's not going to work for you either. Or, vice versa. You can find someone you just really, really like, but they're not actually that effective. And so that doesn't work either. You can go for coffee, but you don't need to pay them to give you energy work. So that's a thing to keep in mind. It's you need both. You need effectiveness and you need to get along with the person. And you need to make sure that that energy worker is practicing boundaries. Because I see all the time, a lot of energy workers, they get enmeshed with their clients because they serve too much. And so you want to make sure that, that energy worker's not randomly texting you at inappropriate times saying, oh, I found this thing and I thought you'd really like it. That's a boundary thing that the energy worker needs to work on. We serve too much. So that's a thing as well. You just want to practice a lot of discernment. It's just like picking out a doctor or a therapist or your new best friend. It requires discernment.
True. How can someone like me or our listeners can integrate these practices into their daily life, and that too very sustainably?
So one of the easiest ways to get started is with grounding. And yeah, you can go with grounding as just a very, very simple thing of taking off your shoes and walking around on the bare ground. Safety concerns, keep those in mind. But overall, that definitely helps. Earthing is what that's called now. And that's a specific kind of grounding that you can do. You can also use grounding visualizations. A very, very popular one is, envisioning roots that come down from the bottoms of your feet into the center of the earth. Though I prefer to start it at the top of your head. And if you grow those roots all the way down, then you're actually integrating. So, but, that's just a personal preference. And yeah, grounding is a great place to start. I know meditation's a big one, and I agree that meditation is wonderful. I prefer to use guided meditations rather than to just do the whole breathing thing. And like, you can do the whole breathing thing, but there are some studies coming out now that say that if you've experienced a lot of trauma, that may not be the best place to start. So grounding is easily accessible and safe.
That's very practical and empowering at the same time. Scarlett, are there any ways that our listeners can connect with you? Maybe your Instagram or LinkedIn or etc.
I am not really on social media very much. So I have an Instagram profile. It's not very interesting, but you can connect with me on my website, which is yourabundantdesign.com or astralreiki.net. It'll get you to the same place. And you can sign up for my newsletter. And I only put out a newsletter about once a month, but I like to think it's very interesting. So if you sign up for the newsletter, you definitely don't get spammed.
That's a positive note. I hope our listeners would connect with you on these platforms. Scarlett, before getting off with this conversation, do you have any last remarks or remarks that you want to give to our listeners?
You know, I would probably harp on the point of discernment whenever it comes to anything spiritual. Really running that through your own discernment is so incredibly important, especially in the day and age that we live in, with all of the misinformation that goes around on social media and various other things. Practice discernment. And if you feel like you're not very good at that yet, then human design is a great place to start because it has a built-in mechanism for your own discernment. So,
what a transformative conversation with Scarlett Seebach we had, reminding us that healing isn't limited to physical body, but extends to our energy, consciousness, and even astral sleeps. If today's episode inspired you, take a moment tonight to tune into your energy, explore a crystal, or try a small energy practice, maybe grounding. The more we align within, the more abundant and balanced our lives become. I'll see you in the next time.